thirsty during the day.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, here we go. Energy coming here. And a 1 and a 2 and a 1, 2, 3. All right. How you doing, everybody? My name is Dean Olson. I am a songwriter, radio host, and producer from Orange County, California. And I'm really just an average guy who loves to make music. However, when I get behind this microphone, I become the StrongWriter on the radio, helping songwriters and artists keep musically fit. And the way I love to do that is through faith and hope and encouragement, by taking in the stories and experiences told to me by my wonderful guests, and by learning from the best in the business and passing it along to you. Now, it's another beautiful day for a fantastic show, and welcome to it. Now, recently I was handed some music by my latest guest, and I get the feeling that this album would be really great for going on a road trip. So I put some gas here in the Zoom Mobile, and I'm headed out to Houston, Texas to meet the man behind this great music. On the screen with me is KEETON COFFMAN. He is a singer-songwriter who is very talented at both titles, and he has a very cool album coming out June 18th of 2021, coming up real soon. It's called Hard Times, and that's it for the intro. It's really my pleasure to welcome to the show Mr. KEETON COFFMAN.
Dean, thank you, man. Oh, no, I appreciate it. All the applause for you. Thanks for having me.
I've got to work on my teeth, on my tongue and my teeth there. It's KEETON COFFMAN. There we go. That's right, that's a better pronunciation.
You got it.
How are things going with you? It's very nice to have met you for a second or two before the show, and looking forward to talking with you about your your career and your music, your great album. I appreciate Wounded Heart and some of these other singles off this thing called Hard Times. Very nice stuff to listen to.
Thank you. No, I mean, like I said, it's been a pleasure to make it, and I'm having even more fun getting to share it with guys like you. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. So tell me about this background. I was you and I talked off the air about this room you're in. Doesn't look like a normal living room or a den or a bed, even a bedroom like I'm seeing on Zoom. So where are you?
This is it's kind of a studio and a classroom. I have a kind of a unique music school in Houston called Rehearsal Room. We teach music lessons, but we teach them in the form of recording lessons. So students start learning instruments, and then as soon as they can, we start recording them and producing work with them. They essentially start collaborating with me from the beginning. So this is my office here, at least temporarily. We're building a new studio, which I'm pretty pumped about. It's going to wrap in about 3 weeks. And so, yeah, I'm just hanging out and waiting for Dean to call. So
well, and I'm doing it. And I've noticed there's a guitar way in the back, and it has Rehearsal Room all over it. So that's did you design that yourself, or was it a bunch of stickers, or what happened there? How did you make that guitar?
Boredom, really. So this is, I think I got bored and there were some bumper stickers involved, and that's the school. And so
might as well have it. If you have all those bumper stickers and you're not putting them on cars, why not do that?
Yeah, it was great. It became a fun little guitar. I think that was like a throwaway classical, and I like cheap, kind of brittle, broken sounding guitars. They make good for records and stuff. So I thought, if it's got a good look, I think we'll keep it around. So
yeah. Well, thanks. I was just trying to break the ice a little bit. What the Rehearsal Room sounds like a pretty nice concept. It's a little different than the usual type of music school, isn't it? Yeah. Did you start it, or is this part of really? Yeah,
I started it about 6 years ago. I like teaching, it kind of, and I'm a self-taught musician, and I found that I think looking back, I would have liked to have had a music teacher that was a little bit more of a mentor and didn't hand down necessarily, academic information, but was a little bit more like, hey, why don't we write a song together? Hey, why don't we record it? Oh, you don't know how to play keyboard? Let me teach you the keyboard part. Oh, yeah. You could play drums. That's simple enough. Okay, let's mix it. And then before you know it, you're kind of doing it all yourself, and so that's kind of what we aim to do here.
Yeah, real practical, like a technical school. When you go to learn how to repair something, you get hands on and everything.
Hammer, nail, get it done.
I kind of wish I was had a place like that to go to, because recording's my thing. I love to almost like to do that more. So these students of yours could really decide what they like more, doing the the playing the instruments or getting in there and actually with the equipment and learning to put their voice down on onto a track and things like that. So that sounds
we
great.
kind of force them. We force them to do it all at once, and there's really no age limit here. I've got students that are 7 years old, and they're just starting to play guitar, piano, and before you know it, they got a good home recording thing in their house and learning how to cut their own demos. And then there's 8-year-olds learning how to do it on an iPad. So it's fun, man.
Do you usually tell them that you don't have to spend a ton of money on equipment on your own stuff at home?
Absolutely.
Because now they have a lot of things where you don't really have to do that anymore. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing I love to show them the most is that mom's iPhone. You got GarageBand right there. That's a great place to start. Voice Memo app. That's a great place to start. So technology is great. It's empowering. It's setting people free. And so at first I didn't like it because I was a purist and I had rock bands that we recorded to tape and clasp machines, and I thought it was kind of an easy out. But when you can record a student on a drum kit and then quantize the MIDI data, for anybody out there who doesn't do that, essentially it becomes digital and you can fix it like you would a photograph. They hear it correctly and they start playing better. So it speeds up the process. Yeah.
Sounds good. I'm glad that you're doing that. And it sounds just the way you're describing it. It sounds like you love doing it. So that makes a good teacher that really has a passion for what he does. So
thanks, man.
Glad you're doing that kind of thing. Anyway, that was a surprise to me. I didn't even know that about you. But there were some other things I did read about you that it's kind of funny that you had a life all the way up to high school and even a little bit after that had things gone another way. You may not have may not have seen you doing music the way you're doing it now.
No, I think you're right. I was a junior Olympic gymnast, kind of raised from birth to compete in gymnastics, and I loved it. And toward the end, I think music was kind of the sun was rising on that regardless. Mm-hmm. But I did have a pretty career-ending injury with my shoulder. Sports, they can just kind of stop you dead in your tracks, and it did. And I was 20, and I had written songs all my life and played it. I was kind of the athlete at the back of the bus with the guitar,
really?
Trying to serenade the girls or whatever. And I decided, let's take this route. So
interesting. So what happened there? When you said you got an injury or you got hurt? What was the deal? There's a lot of twisting, in your shoulders and stuff in gymnastics, and my rotator cuff eventually it's kind of gross. It just deteriorated. Ouch. Yeah.
It's just, they're like, what did you break? I'm like, nothing. It kind of like fell apart like a taco. Like it just,
wow.
The MRI was like, yeah, it's done. So I don't swing a lot of golf clubs with this thing. Just leave it. It holds a guitar. That's what it does.
Well, you still seem like a young man. How old are you, Keaton?
I'm 40.
40. Okay. Yeah. So this is like half your life ago that this all happened.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So it's nice that you had a kind of a parallel interest in something besides sports, because look how you flourished from it. You didn't seem to I hope you didn't dwell on it for when you were in the moment. Did it sort of crush you that this is going to end what I do?
With any huge rite of passage, I think it comes with a loss of identity, for a short while. Lucky for me, I was training in Austin, Texas, and there was music everywhere. So what replaced my 4-hour workout sessions was, I'm going to go down to La Zona Rosa and watch this band. So I started going to shows every night. So pretty quick, it was like, oh, this is awesome, and you got to remember, like, training to be a junior Olympic gymnast, that's like a 35 hour a week job. I mean,
so I've heard.
A kid, it was pretty freeing. I started eating a lot of pizza and drinking a lot of beer and seeing a lot of rock and roll, and life got pretty good pretty quick. So
wow,
I miss it still, but yeah, it was fun. It was fun becoming a musician.
Good. Well, then you learned how to roll with the punches. I mean, you weren't down for long, if you were down at all.
Nah,
So
we're all right. Yeah,
that's good to know.
I'm doing all right. Thanks.
So music was part of your life, all that before. There was a little sentence in here, something about your mom kind of introduced you to the guitar, or you had
Yeah.
what was the story there? Just she had the guitar, or it was in her closet and you found it. And
Yeah, it was a funny day. My parents knew I loved music because I used to sneak out of my bed at night and play their records. We had 2 stories, and all of her records and stuff, and I just listened to songs that's what I did. Go to bed at like 1 a.m. listening to records, And they kept trying to make me take piano lessons, but it wouldn't stick. I think the style of learning classical stuff wasn't for me at the time. And so when I found this guitar, I was like, this, like, are you kidding me? This is what I listen to. I listen to Jackson Browne, like, teach me this thing.
Yeah.
So she taught me 4 chords maybe. And after that, it was, kind of getting guitar books and putting 2 and 2 together for myself. So
sounds like the way I did it. Everybody has a different story about how they learn guitar.
Oh yeah. How'd that happen for you?
There was a park and rec thing when I was maybe 10, something like that, down here where I live, and there, and it was about. I think it was supposed to be a bunch of lessons. You take it maybe twice a week there.
Sure.
One of those classes that mom pays for maybe for just a short period of time. And
okay,
I couldn't even get through that. I had my attention span was tough. I would I just want to get to playing some stuff. So I did the same thing you did. As soon as I don't even remember even finishing the course. I just I learned the basic chords that we're talking about, and then found some of the Mel Bay books, and then went down the record store where they always had like. Songs by the Bee Gees, songs by the Beatles, song by Jackson Browne, and things like that. And that's how I started learning.
Yeah, it's hard, and it's hard. We actually here at the school, we do this thing with the younger guys where we take the strings down to just the top 2, and we tune it to E and B, so it's just a power chord, and you only use 1 finger, and it sets you free because you think about it. I mean, when you set down with that guitar for the first time, you're like G, D, that's hard. So you're moving all these fingers. That's really hard. That's a hard little hump to have to get over just to hit cruising altitude. So, I mean, exactly. You nailed it. It's tough to do.
And that was with a nylon acoustic. And then later on, I didn't have steel strings until maybe 10 years later, when I was maybe 19 or 20.
Oh, really?
But just doing that. Stupid story. I was one of my first jobs was cleaning behind dumpsters in a condo complex, and then one day I found in one of the abandoned garages there was this old beat up electric guitar, no name on it, but I can't remember. But it was we got it working. My dad and I were able to get it working after I cleaned it up, and then and I didn't know how to translate the acoustic to the electric. I figured, oh, well, it's easy. I'll just play the same stuff, but it didn't sound right. So I would fake tune the thing. I would take it so I could just bar chord the thing over and over and over until I figured it out later. But it's just one of those things. So everything I've done, played instruments, has all been by ear. So I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but everything was by accident.
It's not. Yeah. No, it's not a bad thing at all. I mean, for some reason, with music, here's what's funny. This is my opinion. It's an auditory, sensory, communicative tool. And yet we think that the most foundational way to learn it is visually.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. So, that's why people are like, oh, well, he only knows how to play by ear. And I'm always like, where do you think we're headed with this?
That's why sight reading always scared me. You see the notes on the page. I'd rather translate it by what I heard.
Sure. And every trade has their necessity. I'm sure if you're trying to put together a 5, 10, 15 piece orchestra to score a movie pretty quickly, it's best to have it on the staff. But I promise you, those guys can hear a G sharp when they play one.
Yeah. That's fascinating that people can do that too. So that is wonderful. I guess that whole story about fake tuning those chords was based on what you were saying about the 2 strings tuning, the E and the B, because Yeah, it seems like, you could, I would do power chords. I try to do all the different songs just by going back and forth, up and down the fret, and so that's how it was done. And I know maybe it worked for me because eventually you learn how to do the proper way, but I don't think even as an old man that I know the proper way to play, even how you hold how you hold the neck where you're supposed to put your thumb in a.
I don't do that.
Yeah, I don't. Whatever works for me works for me. So,
well, I try to, for me, and again, that's kind of interesting show you have here. I feel like I'm kind of talking more as a teacher than as a songwriter, but I try to remind people.
I hope so. I like to think I'm doing both. Okay, we get a little teaching as well. Yeah.
Oh, great. We'll open it up then. Here we go. I try to tell people, they call it an instrument for a reason. It serves you, not the other way around. You don't think about going to a hammer and, pick up the hammer and you go, well, no, hold on. How do you use this? What's the technique?
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. You just smack it against the top of the nail. That's it. And then, if you're like my father-in-law who can fix anything, he can use a hammer about 40 different ways. He can use that thing to ply open a thing, or he uses it to balance the thing. That's how musical instruments, I feel, should be used. And it's serving you. And so if there's a certain tuning that works for you, giddy up. If you need to take strings off, giddy up. In fact, you might like this, and maybe you've done this before. We have a guitar around here that's specifically strung. It's a short scale guitar. They make them like Baby Taylors, Baby Martins. It's kind of like one of those.
Oh, right. Yeah.
We tune it with the higher strings from a 12 pack. It's called Nashville tuning. Have you ever used that before?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. So what you do is you get your 12 string pack. Most people don't need them. I don't have a 12 string guitar. You buy them and you just set aside the normal 6 strings. And then you take the strings that are an octave higher and you just string your guitar. So you have an E octave up, an A octave up, a D octave up, a G octave up, and then the B and the E are the same as on a normal guitar. And it makes this chimish, strange, dissonant kind of chords because the lower strings are on the bottom than the higher ones.
Oh,
it's great for recording. You can pan those. They layer well. Kids love playing them because it's all bright and high and stuff. I don't even know how I learned that, but someone was just like, yeah, you should do that. And I was like, oh, so I have a whole guitar just dedicated to that.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with it. Yeah, nothing wrong with it.
Kind of a clueless question, but the 12 string, I don't know too many people that play it, but I bet I've heard it on different albums and you just don't know it. It's just, I guess, do they pick this kind of thing because it puts out just a nice jangly sound or a nice
it's it's a preference, just like any other instrument. There was a time when it really represented like, oh, this is killer, like Peter, Paul and Mary. That's kind of the Byrds, that era really lended itself to, we like the guitar having this chime and this bandwidth of frequencies that a normal guitar would be like this wide. We want the thing to be like way up here with the high frequencies too. Yeah. And then later, like for me, I can fake it. I don't want to go buy a 12 string.
Yeah.
Bitch to tune those things. So instead I just play my J45 and then I play that 12th string, the Nashville tuning one, and I just layer them in. Sounds pretty close, but
that sounds great. Besides the guitars I can see in the background, do you like to have a lot around the school, or have you had a lot of guitars in your?
I've got let's see, you can kind of see my B3 keyboard there. I've got an 88 keyboard here.
Okay, yeah, you can see just a little piece of it.
Stuff with regards to the stuff you hear on the record. It's about half and half analog and digital. I play keys a lot, and so anything that you're hearing on the record that might sound strange, like a toy piano or a Wurlitzer, stuff like that, I typically have those like in sound packs, that I just have in my recording software.
Yeah.
And then as far as like drums and bass and B3, we record those live. So
that's great.
As far as the school goes, everything's on a computer. It's just easy. It's easy to use. So
when your students are recording things, are you basically pulling out the keyboards? Do they have is it like a sequencer or some kind of thing that something
well,
that'll
that's a
keep
great
the
question
beat for them as well? And,
yeah. Well, Logic is an incredible program that Apple makes. Some people use Pro Tools and all that stuff. I like Logic. If not for one reason, it would be this. They have this drummer. It's almost like an AI drummer. And it's not a program of boop, boop, bap, boop, 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 bap kind of thing. Yeah. You actually just tell the drummer to play and he'll just play a beat. And it sounds pretty real. And then you can tweak it. You just by turning a little knob on the screen. I want it busier. I want it louder. I want it quieter. I want it, I want the hello, Tom, and it just changes.
Really?
And it feels real. You can put in ghost notes. You can tell it to put on the back of the beat. So we set that in motion. And then we just put the guys, kids, most times they're kids, sometimes adults, in a circle, plug the bass in, plug the keyboard in, plug the guitar in, everything pretty much goes direct in. It's a little, maybe a little rough on sound as opposed to something you'd set up like in the studio. But what we gain is efficiency. So then in an hour, they'll track a whole song and get 3 takes each and walk away and they're done with their demo.
Yeah.
As
so
opposed
it's demo quality type of.
It's above it. I mean, you can go listen to Rehearsal Room we put these on Spotify and iTunes.
Really?
Some of these kids are 11 and you'll hear it and you're like, I didn't have a record that sounded that good till I was 25 or 30 years old. It's crazy. I
think I would have killed. I would never leave my room if I was a young man doing that kind of thing in my house with the Logic. Yeah, it does sound like something like you could really get addicted to that if that's the kind of thing that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
I would be doing that. I would be creating because I was always fighting to do this kind of stuff on my own. I would try to put together. You know how the not Casio but Yamaha same difference basically.
Sure.
With all the different. The effects anyway, the cymbals and everything that sounded fake, but I would try to take them and sort of deconstruct it and then do everything
right.
Because I didn't have a drum kit that I could mic and you know how tough it is to mic a drum and put it in your, but some people can do it easily. Some people have a problem with that, but I figured might as well just plug it in and because I'll get sort of the job done. But in the end, I didn't like the artificial, drums. You kind of sometimes you really crave to have that real sound,
Yeah, I think where the line happens with me because technology is so good and my sound lends itself to very much like 80s gets thrown out there a lot, but it is very much an 80s songwriter sound, whether it's John Mellencamp or Tom Petty or Jackson Browne or Springsteen. Like that's what my records sound like. I can pretty much get that close enough on Logic with this drummer. And I invite anybody who's getting into recording, if you've got an iPhone, it's on your phone already. It's on GarageBand. You can just start messing with it. If you have an iPad, that's pretty good. Laptop or desktop is even better.
Yeah.
And it's not something I'd use on my personal record, and the only reason is because it sounds too. There's plenty of personality. What I'm trying to say is there's just no unpredictability. So I know what's happening at all moments in the drum track, and so it doesn't change my playing. When I go record my drummer, Craig, he's going to play something that's going to go, oh, that's weird, and then it'll force me to play piano differently than I would have naturally done it if it's all me. So those are only 2 reasons, because sound-wise, I think they're there. I don't think you can tell. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
No, that's a good instrument, a good tool. I was going to say, like when you were now that I'm stuck on what you saying that the word instrument, that seems to do the job if that's what you're trying to do. Maybe put together a decent demo that sounds
and
very close to it. I didn't know there was a tweak feature in that thing. That would light me up. I'd go back and re-record all the things I did a long time ago and add drums to it.
And if I can throw one out there to the writers, great for writer's block. You pull up Logic, pick a BPM, out of thin air, 108 BPM. Great, low tom, snare, and a random kick pattern, and just start strumming to it. Before you know it, you're like, oh, there it is. Yeah. It's so much better sometimes than I got to sit down, grab my guitar and go into thin air, you know? So on days that I get really blocked, I just turn the drummer on, and before you know it, you start feeling something and it comes out quicker.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. That's
a
little bit of
something. I don't know.
No,
it's just me jabbering.
Actually, people have told me that they love the jabbering. So that's the thing that, like you said, there's a little bit of teaching in there. I don't ask for, complete technical know-how, because especially when it comes to songwriting, there's so many trite questions that you can ask, like, writer's block, as you were just mentioning, because everybody seems to have, there's a book that probably covers that anywhere you read on songwriting, or you could look on the internet for that kind of thing. But when it comes to that, do you ever get scared at a blank page? People have always used that word, say, there's a blank page and that scares me, but once I get going.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I get a little philosophical here, maybe a toe into spiritual, if you will tolerate it.
I will.
What I do is, if I feel that feeling, I recognize I need to take a second to admit what I'm afraid of here. There is no lapse of idea. That's not people do not wake up and say, I cannot think things today. You don't have any trouble looking at a menu and deciding what you want. You have trouble admitting that the ideas that are coming are worthwhile. And that is a terrifying place to be. You stalemate yourself because you go, I can't think of something good. And it's even worse because you don't want to say those words. It's a fearful stalemate. I can't look myself in the mirror here. And I'm not saying when you fix that, a great song's coming. But what I'm saying is, for me, I take a second to go, okay, I'm afraid that I'm not going to write a song that's better than anything off of Hard Times. There, I've said it. Okay. Well, I'm not going to write a song today that's better off Hard Times, but I'm going to write one. And then the motion, the flow can happen. I think the flow will take care of the songs that need to be written, but I'm in charge of going, I've closed off that valve. Why have I allowed it to be closed off? So that's a bit of a confessional thing that I have to do, especially when I've taken a break, like I haven't written for like a couple weeks or a month. That's when it's hard. So I don't know. Would you echo that? Do you have any?
No, that sounds great. What I liked about what you just said is that when you're coming to terms with it and you're analyzing it and breaking it down, said that I'm not gonna write a song today that's as good as fill in the blank. But then what you said after that, so it's going from that point right there where it's almost like you could go either way. You could go, well, then I quit today, or I go, so we'll do something great. We'll do something brand new. So there's where the kind of rubber meets the road, so to speak. Yeah. I think.
I like writing songs so much, Dean, and I can tell you the kind that does too. That at the end of the day, though, I'm fine if I don't write a song as good as "Dancing in the Dark" by Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah. Or whatever you think is like the,
right. Whatever whatever your monument is, but those monuments are the very things that keep me from writing. So I just have to take a pause and go, I've let that thing become the reason that I'm not, whatever. Like, it's a silly thing. Here's a silly analogy, but, okay. So, man, Brad Pitt, he looks pretty good in a suit. So I'm never going to wear one.
Yeah.
What? Everybody wears a suit. Just wear the suit. Like, yeah, but I don't look as good as him. I'll never look as good as
everybody's going to look at him, but they're not going to look at me if I wear in the suit.
Yeah, that's the silliest thing. So, yeah, I'm never going to write a song. Well, that's okay. You still might have 100 other great songs to write, for 100 or 1,000 other great people. You don't know. So anyway, yeah, confession, that's my tool out of writer's block. Very rarely can I convince myself of anything otherwise until I kind of have to tackle that a little bit.
That's very much appreciated. That's something. It's also something that I don't think any other guest has really described it that way. And this is the beauty. That's the beauty of the show. We can ask the same question, and you may have the same answer as all the other ones, but it never quite gets the same. But confession's a good. That's a good thing to consider. you know?
Yeah. And I don't mean it in I know a lot of people have a church background and that could be kind of a misconstrued term. I think, when I think about confession, I think about just telling myself what I'm afraid of, or telling the page, or telling God, whatever you want to say. That's just telling the truth. I don't mean like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, listen, Keaton, I'm a man of faith, and yet that didn't even occur to me what the confession to go in that. Yeah. It's almost more of the, so introspective and just the, considering what it is that I'm, even that Socratic, you were talking about waxing philosophical a little bit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So just asking yourself what's the underlying problem here, or what's the issue? Is it really that I can't think? Is it too early in the morning to think or anything like that? Yeah. Or is there something else? So I think it's healthy to do that. That way it keeps you on your toes, and you can be more truthful with yourself. And in the end,
I like the way you put that. Yeah. More truthful with yourself. Yeah, that's good.
Because then if you are, then nobody else, no other man is going to matter who's listening.
And do you really want to go on singing for the next year or 2 or 3 or 10 years the song that you wrote when you weren't truthful with yourself? Like, is that really what I'm after? Do I really want to write that song and stand in a club of 15 or 20 or on a good night 100 people and write a song that I was like, I was totally faking it the whole time? Like, that sounds awful.
Well, listen, you mentioned Dancing in the Dark. Let's assume that that's something that you consider as a very, that's top notch. That's like one of the cream of the crop songs like that. Yeah. Is that listening to songs like that kind of what inspired you to write other songs, other original material? Like you were inspired by other great writers, some of your favorite things, or did you? Yeah.
Content wise, I try not to, I try not to be inspired by the content of the song, because then I just write my version of that song. However, I do take a lot of inspiration, but I think of it a little bit more as technical guidance on how compositions are made. Like I'll notice, in the bridge, he uses the major 2 chord. That's what does that. I'm going to do that in my song. So, I'm kind of like not a Springsteen fan like most people would describe themselves. Like, I'm one of those weird E Street Springsteen fans. You know what I'm talking about?
It's kind of, I was going to say, interesting enough, same thing here,
Okay, great. So we're
and most of the people. Now, this is just this is just a tangent, but I sometimes go on, for nostalgia purposes, I go on these groups on Facebook where people talk about different rock groups.
Totally.
And everybody that's into, like, say, Zeppelin, Tom Petty, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned Springsteen. They always seem to like, no, we hate him.
It's
like,
not for
I thought he was in the same league, but apparently they have a whole different concept.
You know what? We don't want them. That's how I see it. Go enjoy your Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Go. No, I'm just kidding. I love Zeppelin. I love Tom Petty a lot too, but I do get it. Springsteen fans are kind of pariahs. We're kind of weird. We're kind of like, why do you need 9 people all singing background vocals and none of them are in tune?
Yeah.
Like, what's up with that? Why is the saxophone player not even playing? Like, what's going on? And that's E Street. But so to tell you, I borrowed, Springsteen has a lot of eras, and I've really studied how he's done these different producers that he's worked with, kind of his early stuff was Jimmy Iovine, super famous guy for a million reasons. Later down the road, when he kind of popped back up, actually after that was kind of solo, kind of that Tunnel of Love era was solo. And then he met Brendan O'Brien, who was really he broke with guys like Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots. Brendan O'Brien made The Rising and the next 2 records. And then after that, the last 3 records, what was the guy's name? I always forget it, but he got popular. He made Lifehouse. Like, it's a strange, it just escapes me now. I feel so silly because he's such a great producer. Anyway, point is,
no, that's not true.
But I dive in and I do like to deconstruct their songs and go, this is how Springsteen uses a glockenspiel.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So that I do. But if I were to sit down and go, I really love the song On Fire, I'm on fire, I'm going to write a song like that. I'm not being truthful with myself. There it is. The content it's not my story. So lyrics, I tend to just let them be mine as best I can.
Yeah, I'm sort of, it's a love-hate thing with Springsteen. I at least admit that I'd listened to stuff, like, way back, 10th Avenue, Freeze Out, and those type of songs, right? So I enjoyed that up to Hungry Heart. And then, and then he puts out this album, Nebraska, right? Which is all like on different, like a home recording type of thing.
It was a home recording. Yeah.
Yeah. And people didn't like, some people loved it. That was very polarizing because people really hated it or they loved it. They thought that was so refreshing that he did something like that. Yeah. Of course, he had no hits off of it. So I think that's why it was polarizing. So
he didn't even tour it.
Right.
That's it. I put it out. I'm done. See ya.
Yeah. So he had maybe 3 recognizable songs and then it's over with. Right. And then comes, I don't know what was before that, Born in the USA. And that's when it started. People started to go, oh, he's back.
Well, and
Springsteen's back. Yeah.
You're right, Dean. And what's interesting about that record is the batch of songs that became Nebraska, Born in the USA was on it. And it sounded totally different. It was super dark. Yeah. And he was like, nah. And his manager was like, nah, hold that one back, man. That might be something else.
That is the funny thing about songs, because it was dark and it still is dark, but they dressed it up into an anthem, Totally. So that was an interesting thing. And but I always thought, the love part was like, I really thought he was a great, as a songwriter in the 70s, those things I was growing up with, Blinded by the Light and the Pointer Sisters did Fire. And what am I leaving out? He did some pretty incredible songs.
Here comes what's the Because the Night.
Because the Night. Yeah, Patti Smith. Right. Exactly. Because the Night Belongs to Lovers.
Springsteen song.
Yeah. So I always thought, oh well, then I must like the way he writes songs. I just don't like him singing them. I didn't enjoy that throaty voice that he always had, and screaming like he'd scream so long that this is what he had left. Gravelly voice. But I was a fan of. I kind of like Tunnel of Love. But all those '80s solo albums that you're talking about in that period seemed to be all, that was very overproduced and. So it was like they were meant to have hits.
He made them in his garage. He made a Tunnel of Love in his garage apartment. It's just a different kind. And I think there's very, very rarely. And here's what I try to introduce to anyone who doesn't like Springsteen, saying not that you have to like him, but very rarely does popular music have a figure, one person, male or female, that is fine slipping in and out of it. They're fine when they have success and they're fine when they don't. But either way, it's not a compass for their artistry. That's not Taylor Swift's vibe. Right. She's not going to go make a record that's like, what's up, guys? I decided to make a bluegrass record. Yeah. No way, dude. And meanwhile, you're not going to have a band that's, Bon Iver is not going to make a record that's got a rap song on it. I mean, he's, so I've always loved that about him. They're like, man, this is crazy. He's really, boom, arena rock level, boom. Then he drops out a note, boom, I think that there takes a certain amount of, I should say, I hope to have that kind of self-determined artistry in myself, kind of for the rest of my journey. So. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. So I was able to speak on Springsteen just a tiny bit, even though
a little bit.
I know very little. I think by the time he got to 57 channels and nothing, that was about the last I was tuned into him. You know what I'm saying? But I still enjoyed that song too. But it's like he's doing a little different here. He's giving it a try still. Trying to do his own stuff.
It's been 50 years. He's been making.
It has been a long time.
So there's going to be some misses in there. Yeah, sure.
On a totally different people. Paul Simon and Sting did a thing. My daughter took me to this concert where they performed together. So they wouldn't sing songs together, but they would just like trade off and do their own, like a songwriters round type of thing. So, and it seemed to work, but you could see the definite difference between Paul Simon's music and Sting's music.
Oh yeah.
And
sure.
Each has had different, Sting has taken chances where he'll go off in a different direction, and, but both of them have done that too, right? Where Paul Simon will incorporate different, Lady Smith, Black Mambaza or whatever. And then he'll decide to do another, like an acoustic, do some covers, but it always still sounds like Paul Simon stuff.
Right.
So they don't go too far off the, out of their, what is it? What's the term? They stay in their lane. Yeah.
Staying in their lane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they both have those voices that, it wouldn't matter what they're singing on, it's Paul Simon or, it's Sting. So,
yeah. Well, what was funny, my daughter's, at the time she was in her mid-20s, and she enjoyed Sting. She was more for Sting, but the Paul Simon, every time Paul Simon would do like a 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover or something like that. Her reference point is, oh yeah, they sampled that song in this thing. so she knows the sampled version of whoever did that one. And I said, oh, that's interesting.
Wow.
So most of the stuff crazy. I grew up has been sampled now in one way or another.
Yeah.
So
wow, I never thought of that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that song.
I thought that was interesting because I forget who it's. You have to look that up. But 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover is sampled by some famous artist, and they had a hit with it, right?
Cool.
And I said, wow, this is what you knew it from. Says, yeah, I never knew where that came from. So you're kidding me. This is a girl who, I have two kids. They're grown, but they grew up listening to music that I was listening to all the time around the house. So they were exposed to all that. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Paul Simon song?
No, I liked them. I liked all, the early greatest hits, Kodachrome. I liked, let's see, what could I think of, Slip Sliding Away. Gosh, I don't know. There was it took different turns, but it always sounded kind of he had the same kind of flavor all the way up until 1980, I think, when he did the One Trick Pony movie, and then later on there was more. I don't know if I have a favorite. I like him, but only had that Greatest Hits album in my house a long time ago, so that's
sure.
Yeah. Oh, and I also had the one. Graceland or whatever that where he did the You Can Call Me Al, and that's where people started to wake up and go, oh, he's doing some new stuff now. Now he's with the 80s as well. So.
Yeah. Graceland is probably my favorite Paul Simon song.
Oh, that's awesome stuff. Yeah, Diamonds on the Soles of His Shoes is probably one of my favorite off that album. I'll go. I don't know. You like what you like in the end. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I'm trying to pull myself in because I don't want. We'll just keep talking about other people's music, and it's okay, a lot of fun.
I'm here all day.
That's what inspires a lot of people anyway to get
Yeah, totally.
By default, a lot of the interviews I've been doing for the last maybe 14 months have centered on what happened. There was a big change that happened. And people who were performing, all of a sudden they had to shift gears, and either they're not performing or they're doing virtual shows. And because a lot of the stuff that they love to do, not their identity, but their livelihood has been taken away from them, and, or put on hold for a while.
Yeah.
Did you, I was just curious what your story is, because we were talking about how you're doing your teaching and everything. Like you haven't been on the road doing performing since this all started. So can you take us a little bit farther back? When did you first get into becoming a performer? And let's say I'm officially now an artist, going around and touring and things like that.
I think there was a bit of a blurry line for me about 15 years ago, because I was employed if I may say so, quite lucratively as a worship leader. And in Houston, churches can be in the thousands of people in the congregation.
Big churches, yeah.
Yeah, and they call them mega churches down here. And
You took the words out of my mouth. I did. Some people don't like that word, but it does seem to describe how they look. Gigantic places.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that's good or bad. It comes with its own set of opportunities and complexities. But one of those things that I loved was I got to play music for a lot of people. It seemed as though it just, for some reason, was not quite the fit that I think the churches that I played for, and I began to kind of tour and do different churches or different youth camps, and I had a band called the 71s. So we started doing that pretty busily, and then I quit my job at a church and kind of went freelance, and so I was touring. So we kind of had this mixed life of rock club on Friday and Saturday, and then church on Sunday. And I just couldn't decide which is the better vehicle. Do I want to be the guy that's too loud on Sunday morning? Mm-hmm. Or do I want to be the guy that's maybe has a message that's not really intended? This is not really for the audience on Friday night. Like where am I? So that was the majority of my 20s. And it was good. I learned my trade. I learned how to be good in front of people. I learned how to sing. I learned how to play guitar. I learned how to play piano. I learned how to be in a band. It was hard. We wore ourselves out. And the band broke up, when I was 32. We had a song on the radio. It was fun. But the gift of that band was I learned how to record music on my own. So when the band broke up, it took me about 2 years to kind of try and figure out how I sounded and what I wanted to say. And then I started recording my first full-length record, which came out in 2016. And then I hit the road and just started trying to sort of rebuild fan bases in the regions and the cities that I used to tour in, which were mostly in Texas. Yeah. So that was 2016. In 2018, I have a long history into my early teens of obsessive compulsive disorder and bipolar 2. And that, mental illness is a funny thing. And, we can talk about it to whatever extent or brevity you want. But it sort of it pops up. And I'm not talking about like anxiety. That's a whole nother, thing. And I don't downsize that. That's a real deal. People struggle with anxiety, whatever. The depth of this is part of my genes. It's no different than being diabetic. And I got real sick in 2018. And, wow. I was not drinking. I'm not staying out late. I'm swimming laps. I'm taking care of myself. I got 2 kids. We got a third on the way. The school's doing boom. And I just got hit with this. It just put me on my ass. And it took me about a year. I guess that was 2017, actually. It took me about a year to kind of get back, to where I was healthy. And then another year or so to where I could work. And so that was really a struggle. But what I kept realizing was I don't really experience any of these symptoms, these overpowering voices, when I sit down and I play music or when I perform on a stage in front of people. And, my psychiatrist and my doctor were just very clear about, you need to play as much music as you can. That's it. I mean, you're telling me you feel 0 symptoms. I was like, I feel zero symptoms. I put the guitar down. Woof, the tide comes in on me. Like, okay, well, play as much as you can, write as much as you can, make money when you can, but you got to do that. So I did. And by the time I was healthy, I had Hard Times written, and that's the record. And I started making it in the studio, and that kind of brings us up to speed. So,
wow. I had no idea about you. No, when you say bipolar 2, is that a specific diagnosis or label that they put on that?
Yeah.
Is that the kind where it's like really frenetic energy at the top, and on the bottom you're like, I'm crashing, lay in bed and stay there for a while, almost to the point where you want to cry or anything? Is it like
So bipolar, people, what that means is that you have these manic and then depressive stages that move like waves.
Yeah.
Generally, people with bipolar 1 it can get to the whole like, hey, I went to Vegas for a week and now I owe $1 million because I went on this gambling spree.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. And then you come back and whatever. And I joke about this because I have to laugh about my own situation. Otherwise, it's grim. Bipolar 2 is a little steadier. The peaks and the valleys don't quite spike as much. But what it looks like in my life is I go on these insane bouts of creativity. I'm talking, I can write a record in a week and I can record it in 2, and it's just like, I can't even explain it, Dean. It's just it's a surge. It's like a giant wave.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like to surf one of those 50-foot, 60-foot waves, but it feels like that for a week. And
so it sustains for that long a period of time?
I can write 3 songs in a day.
That's incredible.
It's
wow. So you made something out of that. Hold on. Constructive.
But then it crests, and you'll wake up one day feeling like, I feel like I just ran 10 marathons. Like I can't even, like your norepinephrine and your serotonin in your brain are so suppressed. They're just not the juices that make you feel like, hey, it's a pretty good day today.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not there.
Yeah, it gets taken out.
They're just not there. You're wiped out. And, most people take a good nap and watch a Netflix. There's a chemical imbalance that you can't pop up from that. And so most of my life, with whether it's music or exercise or diet, is meant to, I got to stay stable. I can't go too high because then I go too low. And if I go too low, I can't come, I wasn't trying to write a record intentionally. It was just the discipline that made me escape. And most of my lyrics I write in terms of a character. They're sung first person, but I like to create the character and go, okay, this guy lives in this area and he's dating this kind of girl, and they say these kinds of things. And there's parts of me that's injected in that, but I think there was probably a little bit of therapy in there, and and it just made for a great great music. It wasn't a pleasant time in my life, but I have the album now.
Well, now something came out of it.
Yes,
you were productive in your what do you call it, in your your mental bout of mental health. That's pretty incredible. Now, when the shutdown happened and you had to change, suddenly your life changed again.
Oh, right.
Did that happen? Did that play a part in your in the life going forward?
I had pretty much gotten back up to my feet to where I was doing about 2 to 3 shows every 2 weeks. So I was probably out every other weekend and playing really good music for really good people, opening for really great acts in larger venues, and playing for my small, humble crowds in other areas. And yeah, so it, boom, it was gone. But I didn't really live off that income in ways that larger acts, certainly do and need to.
Yeah.
So I focused on the school. We got closed down. I had to turn all the teaching on to Zoom, which, didn't really exist at the time in my particular trade. I didn't know about that. We did FaceTime, but I had to figure out a way to do group classes, all that stuff.
There probably wasn't a need for it back then. It was fine the way it worked.
Right. Yeah. And so that was, that was kind of our March to June 2020. And then, we've all rebuilt just as the whole country has. So, yeah.
Yeah. But the mental health wise, did you have any problems with that, or did have things been have you been able to level a little bit, or because there are a lot of people that went a little cuckoo. Sorry to use that, but there was like a lot of drinking, substance abuse, and some other things that went on, because I've seen it personally.
Because of 2017, 2018 in my personal life and growth, I keep those things pretty close to the vein. I keep my finger on the pulse. And so, I struggled just like everyone did, but I'm really secluded here. I've got to adjust in this way. So I think I was just on my guard the whole time, and I didn't really experience anything more than would be a a normal person's gloomy week or a hard month. It wasn't like a rock bottom bipolar, thing that I'd experienced before for, I'll just 3 months or 6 months or something like that. So
yeah,
I feel for those who weren't ready for it. Yeah, I feel it's not fun. So.
I don't have any too many people that I can talk of personally that have gone through this, but I'm really hoping that there are people that'll hear your story and go like, wow, this is great. It sounds like he's made something he's made something out of it rather than just let the illness take you down, because
it's hard because you can't outthink your mind. And that's the thing I would love.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah.
But you can learn to recognize when you aren't, you no longer sound like yourself in your mind. And you go, okay, I no longer am starting to sound like myself. I need to now, again, tell the truth and begin to rely on the people, the places, the disciplines, the patterns in my life that help me return to that balance. I'm not a psychiatrist. Everybody has a very different medical need. I do believe it is rooted in a medical one. I also believe it has a foot in the emotional, behavioral, spiritual. It's kind of a mix of everything. It makes you an individual. But I'm always happy to talk about it because I don't really think it's a negative part of myself. I was taught by the people around me that, it's no different than, if you're diabetic and your insulin drops, you take a shot.
Yeah.
If you have bad cholesterol, you take medication. Like, it's not your fault, so.
Yeah.
But you can make it worse. I will say that you can make it worse. Don't make it worse on yourself.
Are you able to, now I'm just curious because this whole, you're describing this happening 2018, 2018, that. Yeah. And then, can it be managed going forward? Can you?
Has to be.
Are you ever cured of that, or do you just figure that this is now I can cure it with I can nourish it with meds, good diet or exercise, or or meds, like I was saying. Yeah.
Well, I neuroscience is it's in its infancy compared to other medical fields. So not only just evolutionarily, it's in infancy compared to like heart surgery. It is a very infant like field. Yeah. A lot of the medications that are prescribed are sometimes accidentally discovered that, this also helps a bipolar person. It helps people with seizures. Well, so it's in its infancy. So let me say this. I don't know what I'm going to be like when I'm 70. I don't know what I'm going to be like when I'm 50 or 60 or, maybe I can live to 80 or 90. But I do know that, I have learned how to not make it worse on myself. I like that phrasing. I've learned how to not make it worse on myself. If I, do these kinds of things all the time, the waves, if you start stirring up the waves, you're going to get waves, Keaton. Like, don't treat yourself like that. On the flip side, I also recognize this thing's in my family tree. It's in my genes, and I don't have to be afraid of it, but it's part of who I am. It's part of who I am. And that's okay. And like I said, no different than if, 3 generations before me had all been diabetic. I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't blame myself, but I also wouldn't go, well, I can will myself out of diabetes. That's dangerous talk for me. It's dangerous talk for me. So yeah, no, I consider myself to have bipolar, but I don't consider it to dominate my life. So
yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. Just not knowing enough about it. And, so I'm talking strictly from a layman's point of view, but I'm open enough to know that, or to recognize that, the human brain is it's just incredible what it can do and what it will do to you too. Cause I watched my father. I just lost my father last year to Lewy body dementia. Which was kind of brought in, maybe related or unrelated to Parkinson's disease, which he had. So
sure,
this was a man that on the outside was very, very sharp and very together, very intelligent, very mechanically inclined. all that stuff, and just to
Right.
watch it be robbed from him because of what was deteriorating in his
that's
brain.
tragic.
And it changes your personality. It changes, behavioral patterns, what you'll say, what you think, how you react to certain situations. And that's just one condition. There are plenty others that the textbooks will tell you about. But when I hear you talking about bipolar, a lot of people will say, well, just get on some meds and get it over with, and you'll be cured. But there are chemical and electrical situations going on in your head that you can't cure with, say, behavior modification or hypnosis or anything like that. So there's more to it than get over it. But then there's also that too. At some point you got to take responsibility and go, there's maybe it's become a habit that I'm like this all the time. Maybe I'm getting better, but I won't let myself let go of that part of me.
I'll tell you the one, and first off, thank you for you framed that so well. The only time that it crosses the line for me with people is to go, you don't know what it's like to have someone else's thoughts or chemicals in their brain. Like, even if they're labeled as this person is bipolar or this person is bipolar, they may not be this. They're not the same person. And I don't think any expert or rational person would ever say, well, there's this blanket solution for this. So that's kind of why I like to preface my story by just saying, this is my story. I see how this has genetically been passed to me. I see how it is woven into this strange thing that music is kind of also the solution for it. And yet it's also my favorite thing. There's this identity part of it. It's a limitation, but it also drives me to create. So I don't know how I look at that anymore, I think is what I'm trying to say. And before I go, some will lean more heavily toward the medicinal answer. Some will lean more toward a spiritual answer, or some will lean. That's all for them. Mm-hmm. I don't even participate in that conversation. For me, I just go, here's the phenomenon I found. I went through this incredible struggle, and I felt like it's so bizarre that the one thing that it is driving me, that is the solution to helping me find my balance, is a very pure thing that I love and is worth giving my life for, and that's music. So that's weird. It is does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. It's strange. It's almost like, if playing professional football also cured my concussion, like that would be like, what? That's you never. Yeah. So,
it almost sounds like what oxymoronic or something like that.
Okay. Thank you. So that's what I know. And that's taken many, many, many years and many good people just to talk to and sit with and say, I think I'm learning who I am. And I think I'm learning who I'm not. And I'm starting to realize what happens when I step outside of that identity that God has sort of formed me into. So that's it. That's and it requires a little bit of medicinal assistance, and I got to make sure I go for my swims and do a little less accounting work at my music school and do a little more songwriting. So, that's the best I can do, and eat peanut butter Captain Crunch as much as I possibly can.
Oh, well, good. I'm
joking about the last.
That's a nice thing. I would just say to you now, just know that I'm being serious when I say this. God bless you for what you've shared here. This is
wow.
You've done very good 20 minutes maybe spent on this, and time well spent, I think, because
thanks for hearing me.
Yeah. People say, this is a music show. Yes, it is. Somebody who was interviewing me asked me what my show was about. And I said, well, it's really kind of about the soul of the songwriter more than teaching songs.
I'm down for that.
Because I figured I've seen enough of that. And plus, truth be told, I don't retain information that well. And a lot of stuff sticks, but some stuff just goes one in ear out the other. And then I don't know if it's still in there, but
sure.
Every once in a while, something brilliant will come out of it. And you've done some, you've brought up some incredible topics that I really appreciate.
Oh, it's been a pleasure to get to know you, Dean. Thanks for letting me share my story.
Well, listen, tell me a little bit about the album. Now, if I had your CD and I was going on a trip, this would be one of the ones I'd put in my, stick in the bag. And these are the ones that I'm going to listen to on this long trip, because I can go through the sort of that barren countryside and just enjoy listening to song after song that you put on.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, I get that a lot, and I think in my mind when I'm writing songs, there is a lot of driving happening in the characters and the experiences, and so maybe that's why that happens. I also love driving, and I also love songs that take you from 0 to wherever you end up 4 minutes later. I like that there's some kind of arc and that it takes you somewhere. Thanks. On the maybe not so much on the backstory like we talked about with me. There's a lot of hope in this record. There's a lot of struggle in this record. I like to think of that tension as being a really good place that art lives. When you have it too much over here and it's just too bright, it feels superficial. It doesn't feel like it has a foot in reality. And when it is, there's just too much struggle. It to me sort of, well, now we're also not living in another element of reality, which is choice, tomorrow, love. I mean, goodness, love should be gone in this world by now, but it still thrives and does so many powerful things. So that's where I didn't sit down to intend to write that. Like I said, I stumble onto these characters in my mind and I flesh out a moment in their life. Sometimes it's in real time with the song. Sometimes it's the 4 minutes you're hearing. And I try to set music around them as if you're watching that play. And that's the song.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
You've got a lot of different characters on there. Some stuck in the middle of some stuff, some stuck in some dark stuff, some trying to pull some others out of some holes. But we had fun making it.
Good. You say we. Now who's all involved besides you?
Yeah, my musical partner, I really have two. One is Ryan Cecil. He owns a studio called Golden Gnome Studios. It's now located in Colorado, actually, but it was here in Houston while we made it. He's just moved since that time. He's been my best friend for probably 20 years. He was in my band that, toured and then broke up, but we've always been together. He's a great guitar player. He plays pretty much all the electric guitar work on this stuff. Certainly all the good stuff.
All the good stuff, yeah.
Yeah, he's something else.
Was he in the 71s with you? Is that what you were trying to say?
He was.
Yeah. Why did you call yourselves that band? That's an interesting name.
It was a highway that Ryan and I lived at the other end of. So I was on one side of 71 and he was on the other. And it's kind of what helped us get the band going, was driving down that highway, that commute. So,
nice. It just happened that way, yeah. And there was 4 of you in that band, I think.
Okay. Yeah, 4 of us. Other members kind of rotated, but it's kind of been Ryan and I for a while. And so he's also, though, an incredible editor, incredible mixer, incredible, at producing. And so I don't really make much music without pushing it through the filter of what Ryan brings to the table. He's a genius. And the other guy is named Craig Weaver. He's my drummer. And his drumming's incredible, and he's as good of a percussion player as a drummer. And there's things that he brought into the studio, chains and thumping on chests and just things I didn't know you did. And it textured the record in a way that made it really gritty. And I loved it. So
that means he loves sound and he loves experimenting. Then that's a good thing to have.
Yeah.
I like that.
So that's us.
That's good.
Yeah, man.
Did you do a lot of stuff on the periphery? I mean, a lot of I sometimes will hear synthesized strings maybe and things like that. Is this all you doing that in there?
Yeah, I play a lot of keys. There's mellotrons, organs, although I don't play most of the B3. I like to play B3, but we have a world-class B3 player friend, and he is his name's Josh Moore. So he played B3 on that. Then there's Wurlitzers and Rhodes pianos and detuned uprights and all kinds of toy pianos and glockenspiels, and that's kind of what I go to make things sound strange.
B3, we talking about like a Hammond? Is that what that is? Yeah. I'm afraid of those. I feel that's better put into the hands of somebody who knows what they're doing.
Because
I always loved to have a good sounding organ, and depending on the song you want to put together. But I'd rather have somebody else who knows how to handle that thing to put some soul into it, because it really does sound good when you do it. So
yeah, I know what you mean though. When I first started playing it, you're like, man, this thing reacts. Like I got to figure out what's going on here.
Yeah, there's some play in with those keys. Anyway, great stuff. Tell me a little bit about some of these singles when you're talking about characters. So Hurricane is an example of like a character, right? Yeah. So
Hurricane's a great song about just how, messy life can be. I think we're afraid of things that aren't perfect. I think we're afraid of moving into situations that aren't perfect. But the truth is, none of us have really ever done anything but make mistakes in our relationships.
That's right.
And when you look back, they're beautiful. And so I'm not saying go out and screw up your life, but it's the hindsight that makes, oh man, there was something so pure in the midst of that. So Hurricane's about, kind of meeting the wrong kind of girl at the right kind of time as a young man. And
interesting.
She's a bit of a hurricane, but looking back, she'll never leave him. So that's that song. So
that's awesome.
She was a lifeguard at the local water park swimming pool. Sold cigarettes to the rich girls that at the school. Ocean blue eyes straight off the coast of Maine. And a smile to steal your heart, curves like a work of art, gliding down the boulevard. Hey boys, here comes my little hurricane. There was a ghostly moon in the middle of a Texas sky, stars like raindrops frozen out in time. I whistled to the wind and waited in the summer night. And who should be standing there, breaking love knot in her head? My little hurricane ready to tear, and down to the river we ride. Hearts get cold, hearts get cold, even hearts get cold. Daddy came looking for the daughter that he thought he knew. Instead he found a woman, good Lord, she'd grown in two. Hot like the red dirt sitting up on his face, with the morning sun raining down, sun that wanna stroll around. When Daddy made the shotgun sound to put me in my place, you know the dust is best to carve out the morning light. Kicked up by the ties from my brother's so bite. She had her cool hands holding tight as we raced away, running on the side of reservoir. We rode like never before. Who knows what her daddy had in store for me and that hurricane? You know hearts get cold, hearts get cold, even hearts get cold. Days go by and you put the storms in your past. She got a new boy, swear it ain't gonna last. I crack a smile every time I hear that name, spoken in a crowded room, still sings like my favorite tune. I know she'll come around soon, that little hurricane. Hearts get cold, hearts get cold, even hearts get cold. Up in the cave.
Here's another one, Magician. That was the one I had to like grasp at. That's a little slower than, that's one of the slow ones you got on there.
Yeah.
Maybe you could give me a little explanation on there. Since I didn't have liner notes, I was trying to concentrate on what you were saying in there. So
yeah, Magician is a dark song. It is a song about deception, and it's I think there's two kinds of deception. There's when we deceive others, and then there's the deception that happens that we don't know that happens, which is we're deceiving ourselves.
Yeah.
And
go figure, that happens.
Yeah, and so I think past that the song kind it kind of needs to speak for itself, but I hope it's a little close to the bone for me on that one. I like to let that song just kind of speak, but yeah, that's what it ventures out. And I worried when I wrote it, if maybe I'm putting myself out there a little too much, maybe I'll be misunderstood a little more than I want, but I feel like, every album needs a character like this on it. So
yeah.
Your heart is bleeding out tonight, almost enough to make me want to live right, but not quite. I'll try to be a good man, save for my slider pen, and you should see eyes so beautiful when they believe that you're my only one. You're my only one. You're my only one. I'm a magician. You're my only one. You're my only one. You're my only one. I'm a magician.
There's the risk. There's risk involved when you put yourself out there. And,
sure.
And then it's a little tough. You can't back off from it. Well, it was only half me or something. I only did just a little bit. I only gave you a little piece of me, but sometimes I guess the ones that really grab you are it was when you put your whole self out there and put it in the song.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I will say I've always been inspired, back to you asked about lyrics. I wouldn't say a specific song by this guy, but Jacob Dylan, who's son of Bob Dylan, and his band the Wallflowers. He had solo projects too, but his writing style has always captivated me. And what I spoke of with that song, I've always felt like he can do really well. So a lot of how he is rubbed off on me as a fan is in Magician. You're going to hear a lot of that. So.
Really? Okay. I never considered that. I liked Jacob Dylan. I liked the Wallflowers. That was a good group of people putting together. What was the other thing? They had one headlight, and what was the other one that was the big
Sixth
hit?
Avenue Heartache was.
Yeah. I enjoyed the feel of that one. I didn't really listen too much to the lyrics on it, so I guess sometimes that's me. The lyrics will go over my head because I'm enjoying how well it was produced, and I like putting together a nice sound. So. No offense to him and how hard he worked on that, but that was a good era for groups like him and his boys there. Tal Bachman was another guy. Remember Randy Bachman's son who did She's So High, which I think scored #1. So that was another. Yeah. There were some good things. Just when you think that no good music's coming out, pop wise, you'll all of a sudden be surprised. Oh, some good. This is a good era.
that songwriting radio collision that happened between like 95 and 2000.
Yeah.
I was in high school, and it was just like that's it. And going back to the first single off the record, that's what Wounded Heart's about. It's about that time where I could literally just turn on the radio and some kind of song would come out of nowhere and just be the voice of God for me. That's what that wounded little heart by the radio dial, waiting for a lyric and a song to smile on you. That's how the song starts.
Oh, nice.
It's about those bands that you're talking about. So it's kind of, thank you for letting me bring that back around to do a little justice, because that era in my life was like.
That's what got me thinking about when you mentioned Jacob Dylan, because, you know, I can only think of a couple. You know, Sean Mullins came to mind at that era, but it seemed like the girls were always, there was so many girls coming out with that singer-songwriter vibe, you know. Yeah. I guess because of Lilith Fair, all of a sudden they decided to really incorporate a lot of it. Just seemed like there was a big surge of that.
Yeah, I think so.
So I'm glad for that. Don't mind. I'm used to people yawning as I talk. Don't worry.
That's good.
Only kidding. Hey, Wounded Heart. So that you have videos for these things that you've made, or is it?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, if you know, I think pretty much anywhere you want to go can be found on KEETONKoffman.com.
Okay.
Instagram's great. You know, next week is another release week. The fourth single from the record, Hard Times, is coming out, and there'll be another video for that. Me and Craig shot some performance videos for pretty much every song on the record. So every song's got a video.
Is the title track, is Hard Times is the single, or what?
That's right.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's coming out. We've got a video for every song. So anybody listening, follow along on Instagram. There's a video for every tune. And then there's also a individual piece of artwork I commissioned by an artist named Jade Genevieve. And each one of them goes with each song. So it's been a fun little package of content to put together. So, and her artwork is out of this world. It's some pretty incredible black and white. It's photography, but she does something with it.
I think I've seen what you're talking about. It's something that you're not used to seeing. It's pretty incredible.
No, it's powerful stuff.
Yeah. So, awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah. If you're okay with maybe picking up guitar and
let's do it.
Maybe pick a song. You know, they're all good.
It may get a little loud around the school here in a couple minutes. This might be a good way for us to send it off. Are you getting that guitar going through there?
Yeah. Are you plugged into the thing, or is it going through an amp?
It's going through an amp and then into my.
No, it sounds good. I can hear your voice and the thing at the same time, so that's perfect.
On a little hot radio dial, waiting for the lyric and a song to smile on you. You do and you do and you do, but you don't know. Wasted what you couldn't on a fool that you know ain't worth a damn. You're in on a hope, you kept waiting and waiting and waiting for him to give you anything but a broken heart. Give you anything but a broken heart. Did he give you anything, baby? Anything I've got all day, all day. I've got all day for you. I've got all day for you, baby, all day for you. Yeah, I told you before what you mean to me. Showed you some things you never could see. Oh no, I know and I know and I know you remember up in the tree in your mama's backyard. Little memories don't stay so far away. Away and away and away and away. Now what you gonna do with your wounded heart? What you gonna do with your wounded heart? Yeah, what you gonna do? What you gonna? I've got all
you all alone now. I got a bad desire. Oh, 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 I'm on fire. Tell me now, baby, is he good to you? And does he do to you the things that I do? Oh no, I can take you higher. Oh, 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 I'm on fire. Oh, 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 I'm on fire. Oh, oh, oh. It's getting a little harder, harder for you. It's harder for you.
That was excellent. Thank you. Let's see.
Thanks, man.
There you go. Yeah. I always have to pull that stupid joke every time. I don't know why. Anyway, thank you.
It's a good one.
Something very familiar about that song. I don't know what it was, but that was good.
I wrote most of that.
I almost wanted to go, woo, woo, woo. That was a good, yeah, I always enjoyed that track, that whole, that's nice because you didn't even come close to the way it sounds on the record, and the record's very energetic, the track Wounded Heart, and that's a good single because I wanted to play that over and over. It was a nice, really good track to listen to. And then you weren't even like doing as you did the acoustic or as you did it on the guitar. You weren't even trying to do the percussion with it. You just strumming it, and it took on a whole different flavor to me.
It's Friday, man. You know,
it's Friday. I'm glad I shut my mouth because I thought I didn't know you were starting the song right away. I was going to ask you about the. You have that on a tremolo, or was that? It was just the way it was coming through there. So
well, you know,
beautiful.
These pedals these days are crazy. I like these pedals made by a company called Strymon. So that's my 335, and Strymon has a Flint pedal and this little reverb and tremolo, and then there's a pedal called an Iridian, and it's an amp modeler. And I used to be a big fan of just big amps and big tubes, and these things sound good. And it's literally plugged right into my computer. Like, there's no, this is what you're hearing.
Oh, I got used to doing it that way. There was, unless there's a different situation. I was plugging stuff like that 20 years ago into the board and got used to hearing it that way. So, yeah.
No, these things are great. And, for anybody out there doing Zoom stuff or, whatever, it's nice to be able to just plug something in and you go, oh, it's not that acoustic guitar I use all the time or whatever. So, and actually lucky for me, because I forgot my acoustic guitar at home, and I walked in, I was like, I'm talking to Dean. I don't have an acoustic guitar. So
plus you don't have to worry about blasting it and everybody in the place is gonna hear it really loud. I haven't used my amp, and in fact I lent it to my nephew who's learning guitar. I lent him a guitar and an amp with the wireless, so it would be cordless for him.
Yeah. And
he's having a blast with it. I don't even miss it because I could just plug stuff right into the computer and listen to it that way. So if you can still get that same sound. So you did a little show and tell with your instruments. The only thing what kind of bass you have in the back there?
Yeah, this is cool. And you have to apologize. I have to go after this, but
oh, no problem. I understand because I saw all the people walking all around the door there.
Well, also you're gonna thank me later because our new studio, we've got like these great huge insulated studio walls. This is about to get loud up in here, so
no problem.
But this is a great another huge Keaton recommendation. Not that matters. These are called Mustangs. Fender makes them. My friend Zach turned me onto these, and they're short scale basses. You can see it's not very long, 12 frets only up to here, and it comes with a J pickup and a P pickup. And honestly, if you plug it into a pretty decent preamp, I've got a Heritage Audio, like an 81. It's like a Neve clone.
Wow.
And they sound really good. So yeah, and it's just this tiny guy. You know, I'm not a pro bass player. I don't need the whole deal. I just kind of need to like do my thing for demos.
Looks like mint chocolate chip to me. That
Well,
nice
yeah,
color.
I like love the color. And you know, you go to reverb.com, you get yourself one of these for not too much.
That whole thing, is that officially a pick guard? That whole thing in the middle there, is it?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
That's a pick guard.
I love it. So you got a Gibson and a Fender coexisting peacefully, it looks like. Yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate the time you spent. You know, I was getting nervous when I saw all the kids walking by the door there, and I said, "Oh, well, school's in, you know, they're wandering the halls."
They're going to crank it up here in a bit and have some.
You're going to see later that there was some kids like looking in there, going, "Wow, what's he up to? He's performing."
That's how it always is around here. Everybody's always tracking something or messing something up.
Well, if you're so inclined, Keaton, I would love to catch up with you when you get to the news studio. Maybe you'll hopefully you got an excuse to come back on the show. I'd love to talk to you.
Name the time, man. Name the time. Why don't you shoot me an email or through, you know, the channels that we got connected, and we'll just you know, let me get your contact info, and I'd love to hit you up. We'll take you on a Zoom tour. It'll be fun.
That'd be awesome too. Yeah, sure. But no use doing it now because you're leaving the place. This is like, you know, just don't trash it when you leave. That's like, I guess that's the thing. But no, I'm looking forward to it. You never need an excuse, even if there's no album. You know, maybe I'll hit you up later on down the line. But
thanks, man.
Yeah, I'll definitely with the contact information. Let's leave people with a little bit of information here. So KEETONKOFFMAN.com. Maybe let you do the honors. How do you spell Keeton Koffman to people?
K-E-E-T-O-N. That's how you can remember it. 2 E's and then Koffman, C-O-F-F-M-A-N, 2 F's.
All right, so lots of doubles.
KEETONKOFFMAN.com. Just Google me. Find me on Spotify, please. Save those new singles to a playlist. Tell a friend. It's an exciting effort for me with this full length, and every little bit helps. But most importantly, I just want people to enjoy the record. June 18th. That's when it comes out.
2021, June 18th. Called Hard Times. Got 10 tracks, and you're really going to like it. I enjoyed it. It was a nice classic, as you said, nice 80s, not the throwback. It still sounds very modern, but it does have a nice, comfortable feel to it.
Got a little touch. We got a little touch.
It has a touch, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know?
Nothing wrong with that.
You don't have to sound like anybody else. You sound like yourself, but it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of comfort reference in there.
Yeah, they did some good stuff back then. So
yeah, I agree. So thank you for the visit. I really appreciate it. Keeton Koffman, everybody.
Thanks, man.
As I play you out there, have a good rest of the day, and you take care of yourself. Glad things are going great for you, and let's stay in touch.
Thanks, Dean.
Okay, have a good night.
Take care. Shoot me an email.
I will.
Bye.
Bye now.